channel, Andrew Makes, and I am super duper excited to announce a new series here on the channel. It is called Vlog Life, and I'm going to be interviewing sewing YouTubers, not necessarily about their sewing journey, but more about their YouTube journey. And I'm going to be interviewing sewing YouTubers with different size channels, not just the celebrities, because I think each one brings something a little different and it'll be interesting to hear all their answers. And I'm going to be asking each one the same 15 questions, so it's going to be so interesting to hear how maybe some of the answers will be the same and obviously a lot of the answers will be different. And the questions range anywhere from how do you decide what content you're going to produce to how do you handle unkind comments, and also offering advice to anyone who may be interested in starting their own YouTube channel. And in this series, we're going to be taking a deeper dive into what it's really like to be a sewing vlogger on YouTube. So if you like behind the scenes and the inside scoop as much as I do, I think you're really going to enjoy this. And I'm super excited to announce that Lindsey from Inside the Hem is my first guest. You're going to absolutely love this conversation. As we know, Lindsey has tons of experience and wisdom and insight. And we're going to be diving deeper into what it's really like to have a sewing YouTube channel. And I do want to mention that Lindsey does use the B word about 28 minutes into the conversation, so keep that in mind and use your own discretion if you're watching it with kids around. And I'm super excited about this series, so without further ado, here's my conversation with Lindsey. Hi Lindsey, thank you so much for being my first guest in the Vlog Life series. We're going to be diving a little deeper into what it's really like to be a sewing vlogger on YouTube, so welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm excited. Okay, when did you start your YouTube channel?
So I started my YouTube channel almost 4 years ago now. Gosh, the time is really hard to nail down with 2020. Everything just kind of like meshed together.
Right.
But yeah, I think I started it 4 or 5 years ago.
I've been a subscriber since the beginning. Okay, what prompted you to start your YouTube channel?
So prior to learning how to sew, I was a fan of YouTube. I was watching the daily vloggers. I was watching the beauty gurus. I was watching YouTube as a consumer. And I had always kind of secretly wanted to be a YouTuber, but I hadn't found that topic, that niche, where I really felt like it was something I loved and something that I could talk about consistently for a long period of time. And after I started sewing, you know, you do what anyone does, and you go online, you start looking for as much content and resources as possible. So I did go to YouTube and found myself a little bit disappointed in the content that was available. There was a lot on tutorials, but they were filmed in a way that was very educational based. And coming from watching so many YouTube videos that were so entertaining, I was really kind of looking for more of that, which I wasn't able to find. So I tossed that idea around in my mind, and then randomly one afternoon, having lunch with Abby and Amber, I said, we should start a YouTube channel, thinking, okay, if I get some friends on board, if we all fail, we'll all fail together, but it'll be a lot of fun in the meantime.
And
I don't know why, but
and it's not as
yes.
scary. It's not as scary when you have.
Right. It's not just me putting myself out there. But yeah, I have no idea why they said yes, because they had no background. They didn't watch YouTube videos that much. They didn't study broadcasting in college. But they said yes. And so we embarked on our journey. Amber didn't last very long. She was not a fan of being in front of the camera. And it was visceral. Like Abby and I could see it. So we did not want to like force her into that. But Abby and I stuck with it for a long time. And by the time that Abby kind of phased out of sewing, the channel was big enough that I could take it on my own. And so that's what I did.
And the rest is history.
Totally. Yeah, that's what they say.
Okay, how has YouTube changed since you started your channel?
I think that when we started, YouTube had just been acquired by Google. So we did not see a lot of those sort of changes that a lot of the, long-term YouTubers have seen. I will say in terms, the only difference that I really see is sort of the more wider acceptance of YouTube as a platform, not so much just for cat videos and viral videos and silly, funny videos, but as a true platform where people can go to be entertained, educated, and, really learn something from the platform.
I agree. I have noticed that just from being a YouTube viewer over the years. Okay, we're going to get a little introspective here. How have you changed since you started your YouTube channel?
Oh, let me list the ways. No, just kidding. Well, I think that going into YouTube, I didn't start YouTube when I was super, super young. I was already in my 30s. I, like I said, had been in front of the camera before when I was in college. So I was kind of familiar with that. Wasn't super nervous in front of the camera or anything like that. By the time I was going at it on my own, I felt somewhat confident in what I was teaching. But there was a lot of times I'd be doing a tutorial and I'd have to stop and really make sure I knew what I was trying to teach people before I filmed it. So I would say that now I'm much more confident in my sewing. I'm much more confident as a sewing teacher. I used to say that I'm a terrible teacher because I have no patience. And what I realized is that YouTube is great for that because you don't have somebody on the other end speaking to you and saying, wait, what's this? What's this? I recently branched out into sewing live, and it is kind of testing my patience a little bit to be able to slow down enough and accept people's learning styles more so than my teaching style. But on YouTube, where it's just kind of like a one-way thing, and then I get comments as feedback, and I can take my time and answer those comments, I've gotten, very, very comfortable with teaching in that way. So yeah, I would just say, my ability to sew, the amount of stuff I know how to sew, the skills that I have with sewing all have expanded, as well as my sort of passion for teaching. I don't know that it'll ever be like a true teacher's passion, but what I love is on the back end when people actually accomplish something and they say that they did that because of me. So I guess that's what a teacher is, but I still will never consider myself like a teacher.
Well, you do an amazing job.
Thank you.
Over the years, while you've had your YouTube channel, at any point, did you want to give up? And if so, how did you overcome that?
So when I first started the YouTube channel, not only with Abby and Amber, but also after they had kind of gone their own way, it was really just for fun. It was really just something I could do on the side, kind of as a hobby to my hobby. It was another creative outlet for me. When I started to think about YouTube as a business, when I started to think about supporting myself on YouTube, started reaching out to brands, started getting feedback from them, started experiencing that whole influencer type of life, things got a little more serious, obviously, because now I'm considering this as my livelihood, like my only form of income. So I didn't quit my regular jobs until I moved to Charlotte. And that was almost 2 years ago, 3 years ago. The time I'm really confused about how long things have been after 2020. So it wasn't until after I moved to Charlotte that I really took it 100% full-time, no more my side hustle. It was my full-time job. And my boyfriend and I, of course, discussed this, and we said that, we're going to give it a year and see how it goes. So we were probably 6 months into that first year, and I'm like, this is so hard. And I'm not doing as much sewing as I want. The kind of content that I have to film for brands is kind of robbing me of a little bit of creativity, and making the money is very difficult. But he said, we said a year and it's only been 6 months. Like, you're getting very impatient. I have a very bad habit of like getting obsessed with things. And then when I realize how difficult they are, or how maybe not natural they come to me, I'm ready to quit. Dan always says he's so surprised that I'm still sewing after all this time, because he thought it was just going to be like another one of those things that I just started, bought all the things, and then they end up collecting dust. So
I've heard you say that you're not good at commitment.
right, exactly. That's exactly it. So he was like, just give it a year, just give it a year. And so I kept at it, kept working hard, and kind of eventually by the end of the year, we got to a place where it wasn't like obvious that I should keep doing this, but I had gotten successful enough. I had enough interest and was making enough money to give it another year. So that's what we did last year. And as you know, 2020 just presented a whole new plethora of opportunity, but also difficulties. So I'm still very, very much a new small business. And doing this to support myself is definitely something I am more confident about doing now than I ever have been. But yeah, there's definitely been those moments where I'm like, it would be so much easier just to go down the street and, I did social media marketing before this. So I could hire somebody, I'd get benefits, they'd pay me a salary. I wouldn't have to think twice about it. I'd show up somewhere 40 hours a week and be fine. But at the same time, I tell myself that I don't love that. I don't love doing that. I mean, so at the end of the day, I've only got this one life. So getting over it becomes really easy whenever I realize that what the alternative is.
Well, Dan sounds like a keeper.
Yes, he is, but I don't want to give him too much credit on here for being so smart.
Okay, we won't tell. What is the most rewarding thing about having a YouTube channel?
Oh, hey, by far, hands down, it's the feedback. It's the feedback. Hearing from people saying, I never would have sewn this if it weren't for you. I never would have tried this. I would have never known about this. I get comments from people saying, I quit sewing a long time ago and I got back into it because of you. Like, those kinds of things, when you love something as much as I love sewing, to get people to sew and to do the thing that you love and then have them love that as much as you do, I mean, it's like a drug. There is nothing better. It is the most motivating, the most inspiring. People say I inspire them all the time, but truly it's the other way around. I get inspired by the comments and the feedback that I get. I think that we do all the work to teach them and to make them happier, but it really, really feeds me. Like, so I don't know if it's like the most selfish thing or what, but yeah, it just feels really good to help.
We all totally understand. Okay, on the flip side of that, what is the most challenging thing about having a YouTube channel?
Well, I think because my YouTube channel supports me, it's a little bit different than just having a channel. I think any small business owner would say the hardest part is self-motivation. Getting yourself, I mean, I don't do that much sewing. I know it doesn't seem that way, but a lot of my day is spent on my computer doing like outside business sales or inside business sales. Business development, talking to brands, organizing things. I don't spend as much time sewing as you might think. And I think whatever business that you own, people will say, yeah, the one thing that I love to do is the thing I get to do least often. So when it becomes your business, it's a little bit different. Thankfully, the creative side of creating a YouTube channel, the editing, doing all the graphics, all the social media is also something that I really, really love doing and I have a lot of passion for. So doing the business side of stuff is not a downer. It's just, I'm not spending all day, every day in my sewing room like I would like. But other than that, I really don't see a lot of the negativity on YouTube. I don't see a lot of the haters or the nasty comments. There are people who provide constructive criticism, but I don't see that a lot directed at me.
That is wonderful and the way it should be. Okay, let's get into content a little bit. And you may have a different answer from when you were just doing YouTube as a hobby versus it now being a business. As far as your content, how do you balance producing content that you like and that you want to do versus what you think would resonate well with your viewers?
Right. And I think that this goes back to the feedback that I get from them and learning what they like. In the beginning, it was, let's just do whatever we want to do, whatever we like. There was a little bit of like, let's do something that will help people. But when it was a hobby, it was really like, if this is not feeding me in any way, then it wasn't even on the agenda. But once you start getting feedback from people about how this video helped them, or they bought this thing because you recommended it, there is something inherently tasty about that. Like, you like hearing back from people saying what you're doing is resonating, no matter what it is. So when we would do a video in the beginning that wasn't sponsored or anything that people really responded to, even if that wasn't necessarily our most favorite thing to do, we would keep doing it because we knew that the viewer really liked it. And I think that that was sort of the business and marketing mindset that I had been taught and trained on all the years, all my working years leading up to this, kind of coming into play. I think that some people might still just be like, okay, well, I'm still just going to do whatever I like. I didn't really like that video. Who cares if other people got anything from it? Also, in the beginning, we were really the only ones doing like fun videos. So I think that there was an element of it that was different and unique that kept us going and doing things that maybe wasn't our first choice in terms of video content. Then when I was transitioning into doing this as a business, so there were a couple of years there where I was making money from YouTube, from brands, but I still had my regular job. So it was kind of like an in-between place. And during that time, it was just like, whatever I can do to please the brand, I don't care what it is. They could have me do 55 cartwheels and I would do it. That got exhausting, because what you will learn as an influencer is if you give them an inch, they will take a mile. And you have to get very, very good at knowing your boundaries, knowing what you're able to do, what you have time to do, and what your viewer is really going to respond to. Would a brand prefer for me to spend 20 minutes talking about their brand on the channel? Yeah. But is the viewer going to stay engaged that long? No, there's no way. And it doesn't matter what I'm talking about. No viewer is going to sit there and listen to a sales pitch for 20 minutes. So I had to get really good at sort of knowing what my customer, which is the viewer, but my other customer, the brand, I had to get good at balancing those two things, being able to tell my customer, the viewer, hey, I have to work with these brands in order to bring you all this awesome sewing content. If I don't have the brand supporting me, then I don't have the funds to support myself, and I have to go out and get a regular job, and I won't be able to produce this much content. At the same time, I have to tell the brands, listen, I can't do 55 cartwheels. I can't talk about your brand for 20 minutes. I can't do all these things that you're trying to get me, they're just trying to get bang for their buck, because I'll lose viewers. And at the end of the day, you want me to have more viewers, because then that exposes your brand to more people. So there is definitely this balance. There's definitely a scale where I'm trying to keep two very different people happy. And the content reflects that a little bit. Yes, I do more sponsored content now than I ever have, but I think that there's a respect from the viewer saying, I understand. I don't love the ads, but you know, I realize I have to do that in order to keep you around. And there is an understanding from the brands that influencers are not going to work for free, and they're not going to accept jobs that don't resonate with their channel, their viewers, their brand message, or any of that. So nowadays it is a lot more of the content that I want to make, and I can tell the brands, hey, I know, and two, because it's such a niche that I am in, they're not working with a fashion influencer. They're not working with a beauty influencer. Yes, their target demographic is who watches my channel. So that's why they want to work with me. They don't care that they sew. They just know that they are women of a certain age, and that's who they're trying to reach. So I can tell them, like, guys, I know this is who you want to reach. I can help you reach them, but you have to trust me to let me reach them in the way that I know how to reach them. So there's a lot more trust from both sides. So because of that, I get to do more of the content I want, and then weave in some of the sponsored stuff a little bit more organically, a little bit more naturally. And at the end of the day, everybody's happier with that.
And I loved your video about ways to support you that don't even involve money at all. I mean,
Correct.
I don't know that viewers realize how important a like, a comment, a share. I mean, those simple things are huge.
Yeah, I mean, the normal person is not supposed to understand or even be aware of the analytics that go into what makes YouTube successful, and then how YouTube passes the responsibility of that onto the channel creator. I do not expect for anybody else out there to understand that. But whenever the conversation of, oh, now she's just doing all these sponsored videos, now there's an ad for this isn't even sewing related, when all that stuff started kind of coming to light very gently, nobody was mean about it, but you know, they noticed a difference because there was one. I just felt like it was really important for me to explain to them, just be completely transparent and explain why I do the sponsored content, how that works, so that they can really, on a basic level, kind of understand the why I'm doing that. I'm not doing that just to make them upset, just to make the videos like longer. I don't know. I'm doing it because I really truly want to bring them more sewing content. And in order to do that, I've got to find a way to get rid of this full-time job so that I can spend those 40 hours working on my channel. But at the same time, I understand that not everybody is going to click on, you know, a sponsored video or buy something because I tell them to buy something. Or, you know, I didn't have my Patreon then, or any of the offerings that I have on my website. But, you know, if they didn't have the money to invest in that, I wanted those people that still wanted to support me to know that there are a lot of ways in which that support can be 100% free.
Yes, I love that. Okay, we touched on this a little bit, but we know that some people have way too much time on their hands and they like to hide behind a screen and a keyboard. I know you said you haven't had many trolls or mean people or mean comments like that, but if you've had any, and this may have changed as you have from the beginning to now because you're more seasoned and everything like that, but how do you handle mean people and mean comments, and what advice would you give other sewing blogger YouTubers who get those?
Yeah, I think most of the negativity that I see on the channel, like I said before, isn't directed at me, because I'm not necessarily talking about myself a lot. I'm talking about the pattern I made, the fabric I used. And so it's not necessarily directed at me, more so than the pattern was poorly drafted. That fabric, you know, was not the right fabric. You know what I mean? So it's easier for me to not take it personally because I can compartmentalize myself as the human being versus the clothes that I'm making, the product that I'm producing. I do sometimes feel pretty bad for the comments that come through directed at a pattern designer, mostly because I know that there's a person behind that and they do take that really personally. So I do First Impression Fridays. They're not not every single pattern company is for every single person. Some people can be a lot harsher about explaining that it's not for them than others. But I just hope that at the end of the day, people, pattern designers included, can see and learn a little bit about maybe the consumer that they aren't considering. If I were a pattern designer and I got some of that feedback and took it to heart, I wouldn't be discouraged by it. I would say, how can I get that person to like my patterns? You know what I mean? Or just say, hey, I'm never going to get them to like my patterns. And that's fine too, because look at all these other people that really love my patterns. I think the harshest commentary comes from when I review the Big Four, because people don't think that big companies are run by small people, by individual people. And so it's much easier to call out McCall's, not realizing that there is a Jackie behind the brand McCall's who is solely responsible for designing their patterns. So that gets a little bit icky for me. When people leave really negative comments, I read every single comment, and to acknowledge that I've read your comment, I will click the little heart that is on the comments, just to let you know that I have read it. Even if I don't leave a reply, I at least acknowledge that I have read it. So I will do that on all the negative comments as well. If somebody has something very negative to say, or if it's directed at something that I can't change, or the person who created it can't change, if it's not a creative decision, if it is inherently something, for example, about my body, or about, I don't know, just something that, like the sound of my voice, you know what I mean? Things like that, I will reply to them and just say, like, you might be, because there is so little of that, I feel confident saying to them, like, we don't really engage in that kind of conversation here. I will have other viewers chime in. Sometimes they will leave their own comments unsolicited, saying, no, you've got it all wrong. Lindsey is not like that. Like, if sometimes some of my content can come across a little bit maybe whiny or a little bit critical, and people take that as me being bitchy. But I think over time, and I've heard this from people too, when I first started watching your First Impression Friday videos, I didn't really get it. But the more that I watch it, I really see what you're trying to do. And I really see that at the end of the day, it's helping us, the buyer of the patterns, but it also helps the pattern designer as well. So people will kind of chime in, will defend me on their own, but I will always step in if things get at even the littlest bit, just unnecessary, unconstructive, not helpful, and just say, like, we don't really do that here. And sometimes they'll reply and say, fine, I'm unsubscribing, and we're all like, okay, great, thanks. You know, because there's so little of that, it's not that hard to just stand up. And I'm not just standing up for myself, I'm standing up for every other person that reads that comment and sees themselves in whatever negativity that person is trying to call out. Like, I know what my body looks like. I know what my voice sounds like. I don't need you to tell me about it. Like, you know what I mean? So if somebody is insecure about their body or about how patterned or clothes look on them, I don't want them to see that comment and second guess themselves. So I'm doing it more so for them than I am for just defending myself even. I just, it's very important to me that it maintains as constructive of a place as possible. Not to say that everyone's going to agree. Not to say if people don't agree with me, that means that I'm going to leave them, a reply. That's not it at all. Disagreement is totally fine. It's just when it becomes unnecessarily nasty, that's usually when I'll step in. Otherwise, they get a little like and we move on.
That is so awesome and great to hear that you don't get many of those. What advice would you give? Yes. What advice would you give sewing bloggers who may receive hurtful, unnecessary, unkind comments?
The world can be really unkind right now. We see it in the news. We see it in the streets. We see it online. I think people are a little bit more numb to that than they ever have been, rightly or wrongly. But my advice for YouTubers would just be, I don't know why, but I do have a little bit of empathy for the person that's leaving the negative comments, because I imagine something in their life is really sad or really bad. And this is how they are sort of handling whatever grief they are going through. So in some ways, it's not necessarily about you put me down, so I'm going to put you down. But it's about just trying to separate someone else's feelings from your own. So if you get these negative comments, I mean, first of all, there are probably going to be a lot more positive comments than negative ones. If you get a lot of the same negative comments, then I would look inward and maybe try and not be defensive about that, because you have more people looking at you and, like it or not, judging you. And there might be sides of your personality. I know for me, I've had to really study and learn and kind of absorb some of these concepts of our speech and our language that we use all the time, but isn't necessarily nice or helpful. Like, I try not to use words like "that's crazy" or "that's lame," because I understand there is a whole world of people out there who do have mental health issues, and I don't want to make that a term that offends anybody. The concept of fat phobia came around to me in a very constructive way. When we talk about patterns and we talk about fit, it's a little bit difficult to not point out parts of the model's body, but you have to do it in a way that isn't about the model and her body, but about how the pattern might fit. It's one of the hardest things that I have to do for myself. Not that I'm only doing it because I don't want to offend anyone, but I don't want to be someone that is perpetuating this kind of acceptance of saying these things in our society. So be the change. And so I try not to use a lot of these words. And I was only made aware of some of that stuff because I was getting not an influx of them, but I was getting comments repeatedly, same sort of thing. And so I said, you know what? Maybe this isn't about them. Maybe there really is something that I can do that will help, that will just put me in a better place personally, but also not unintentionally. I was never maliciously trying to hurt anyone, but not unintentionally hurt anyone's feelings as well. So I don't know, there's a lot of sides to negative comments, negativity in the world. And I know it's a very long-winded answer to say something very cliche at the very end, but it would just be to know yourself, continue to always be open and always be listening in case there is, in all of that negativity, one little tidbit that you can learn about yourself. And of course, if it's just somebody just throwing stones for no reason, then you just have to look the other way. But I think people are sadly more used to doing that now than they ever have, just in regular lives, not just on YouTube.
Great advice. going back to when you first started your channel, did you have any long-term goals at that point, or was it more of, hey, let's do this and see what happens?
Yeah, in the beginning, it was very much, let's just throw it at the wall and see what sticks. 1,000%. Yeah. There was no, I'm going to be a YouTube millionaire. That's for sure. It was just, I love sewing. I want to tell people about it. I want to show people how much I love it. I love YouTube. And it was just the marrying of those two things. I had no plan.
Okay, if we allow it, the comparison game can be very discouraging. How do you handle the comparison game?
Not well, always. I'll be honest. The comparison game, even for me, even with someone with, you know, as many subscribers as I have, and somebody who is supporting myself. I mean, by all accounts, like, I'm doing it, you know, like, I am a successful YouTuber, but it is still always, no matter what, it's just the way our minds work. I don't know necessarily where it comes from, but yes, I struggle with this probably more so than any of the other sort of influencer type of, or social media type of things that there are out there. You know, I have what is considered competition. I try and reframe anything as much as I can. So let's say that somebody with like 100,000 Instagram followers is announcing that they are starting a YouTube channel, right? Immediately, I'm like, oh God, people already love them. They're going to get tons and tons of subscribers immediately. People are watching their videos and not my videos. Whoa, spiraling, right? So I just tell myself, like, you know what? That person is going to bring a lot of people to the YouTube platform. No matter whether they exclusively watch their videos, more likely than not, they're going to bring them to YouTube. YouTube is going to start showing them all the little suggested videos. They're going to end up in the YouTube vortex. It just happens. It's unavoidable. So all those people that they are going to bring over and all those subscribers that they are going to get will most likely be exposed to one of your videos. So just keep your head down. Stay focused. Try not to worry about everything else. There's just so much to worry about in your own lane that I don't have the mental capacity to really truly bring that on. But yes, every once in a while, little things will ping into my mind, like, oh, you know, that video, when videos don't perform well, you know what I mean? It's like, oh gosh, you know, that didn't go well. But it's, you know what I mean? It's not like, and there are some YouTubers who all of their videos are successful. All their videos have thousands of views and tons of thumbs up and, you know, all of that kind of stuff. And I just in some way just believe that it's because I'm taking so many risks on the channel. I could do a tutorial every single day of the week and get all those views if I wanted. You know, I know what content gets more views, but if I had never on a whim or just not really on a whim, I definitely thought about it a lot, but you know, if I didn't just say, hey, let's try this First Impression Friday thing, or go to Style Maker Fabrics and say, hey, let's try out a swatch video, I never would have known those series would have become as popular as they are. So in my mind, because it is more of a business to me, and I'm constantly looking for ways to be different and be unique and be like the person people think about when they think about first impressions or when they think about swatches, you have to try a whole bunch of stuff, and not all of that stuff is going to be successful. But there's also this other side of it that because it's a business, because brands are also paying me, that is where I'm getting my money. I'm not getting my money from the views. So I don't do the comparison thing so much when it comes to views, especially on branded content, because I know I got paid way more money just to, if no one watched, than if a gajillion people watch. Because as you know, you do not make a ton of money just from the YouTube ads that play. But yeah, I mean, when someone posts something to Instagram and it gets 5,000 likes and you're like, but mine was cute. Why didn't I get those likes? You just have to let it go. It just can't be, there's too much else to do. Like there's just too much going on. You just can't be that, you can't spend that much time on it.
Everyone watching is going to relate to what you just said.
Yeah, you put so much time into something, inevitably it's going to be disappointing when it doesn't go well. And, you know, I'm not somebody that necessarily believes that everything has to be a lesson, but it certainly isn't going to help you to say, well, why did I know I'm doing a good job? I don't need to worry about if this photo was posted at the wrong time or if the lighting was, you know, better on this other person's post than mine, or if they made their dress better than I did. Like, I don't have to worry about that, but it is nice to get a little bit of vindication every now and then too.
Well, from a subscriber viewpoint, which is what I am loyal to those I subscribe to, and I don't choose one over the other. Everyone in my subscription list, I watch their videos. So I hope that helps.
It does. I would venture to guess though that you're in the minority. There are some people who I feel like take their subscriptions really seriously, but there are a lot of people who will just subscribe and then kind of forget. And so you have to produce that content that's going to get them back on your channel again.
Wow. Watching my YouTube sewing bloggers, that's what I do in the evenings instead of Netflix. That's my Netflix.
Good. Well, of course, I appreciate that very much. So never change.
Okay. YouTube, think back to when you first started your channel. YouTube is a slow grind. It's a marathon, not a sprint, especially trying to reach your first 1,000 subscribers, because I don't know if everyone knows, but YouTube does not allow you to have ads on your channel where you can earn commissions from those ads until you've reached 1,000 subscribers and have 4,000 hours of viewing. And that's in your first year. If you don't reach that in your first year, then the count starts over. So 1,000 subscribers is definitely a milestone. So what wisdom and encouragement would you give smaller channels who haven't reached that milestone yet?
Yeah, if you're starting a YouTube channel and you think that because you have a big Instagram following, everyone's going to run over to your YouTube channel and subscribe right away, you will be vastly disappointed. If you, I've seen this before too, if you are someone who's like, you know what, I want to start a YouTube channel, but I want to have 5 videos already uploaded and I want to have my channel art exactly perfect. And I want to have all of these like marketing tools that I can send out on. No, you will be so let down. Like you said, it is a grind. My best advice for you is to bring in as many other brands and as much as you can talk about somebody else, whether that be another YouTuber, whether that be, you know, tagging McCall's in all your pictures, sharing a video that you did, you made a Love Notions dress, sharing that in the Love Notions group. Putting your video out, getting your channel live, first of all, is a huge, huge undertaking. So kudos to you for even getting that far, because there are so many people who think about it and never actually take that first step. Because YouTube is free, it's one of those things where it's not an investment in money. So you keep putting it off. It's not like I paid $50, so I better go ahead and get this thing live. So getting your channel live is a huge accomplishment. You should acknowledge these accomplishments all along the way and not put as much weight on the subscriber count than anything else. Otherwise, if you're not finding little ways for you to feel accomplished and feel proud and feel like you're doing something, even if you don't have those 1,000 subscribers yet, you'll just get really burnt out. If all you're doing is waiting for those 1,000 subscribers, it's mentally, like, it just would take such a mentally strong person to do that. Then once you start getting your videos up, having a consistent schedule is important. When people can expect a video from you is important. That said, it is not the end all be all. I don't keep a schedule, and I never have, but I've also been very good about just keeping the content coming. But it doesn't always come on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. As much as I would try to keep a schedule like that, I'm a little bit spontaneous. Brands that come to me are on these weird deadlines, and so I'd have to throw this in. So the schedule made it more stressful than not having a schedule. So in my mind, people should just check my channel every single day, because you just never know. But once you start getting your regular videos uploaded, again, you're not expecting a single subscriber, a single like, you're just getting the content there. You need to start marketing yourself just like any other business. You can't put up a brick and mortar store that sells wingdings and then not promote, hey, I have these new wingdings and they're really fun and cool. You should come check them out. So like I said, tagging the brands that you are featuring in the video, this free content, free marketing for those brands. Of course, they want to know that you're talking about them. They will probably reshare. That's how we got our first 1,000 subscribers within the first 3 months, only because McCall's reshared one of our videos. That's it. That's all it took. We were blown away and thrilled. I mean, we got tons of Instagram followers, of course, tons of subscribers. It was great. But McCall's never would have known if we wouldn't have been bragging about our video to them. So utilize the tags, utilize hashtags, just let people know, hey, I'm putting out content and here's how you can find it. You have to be your biggest, loudest cheerleader, even if it's weird and uncomfortable. But I tell you, I get people with smaller channels that reach out to me every now and again and will say, hey, can we do this thing? Hey, do you mind doing this thing? And if it makes sense for me and my brand and my channel, I'm always willing to help, because there's that appreciation that I have for them for just putting themselves out there, willing to get complete silence from me, willing to get a big fat no, I'll never do that from me, but maybe she'll say yes. And that's how you should think about bigger brands too. Tagging Joanne, tagging McCall's, tagging whatever pattern designer you're using. Just tag, and use all the hashtags is the only way, but it will still be a slow grind. And even after you reach 1,000 subscribers, you may still be very disappointed in what happens after that, because it's not like the money starts rolling in from those ads. So it is a huge milestone in terms of kind of validating your channel on YouTube. But after that, you still have to put in the work, which is why I say I really don't sew that much. I do so much more to support the videos that I've already made than I do about the ones I want to make or I have yet to make.
When you tagged McCall's, did you tag them on YouTube or Instagram or both? Or
it was Instagram. It was an Instagram post that they reshared in their stories. They do it all the time now. I think we all know the Big Four has kind of gone through a bit of a lot of changes since I started my channel. So when we first started, it was very different than what it is now. There was not that, oh God. There was something different about the Big Four company tagging your or resharing your photo. It seemed like a really, really, really big deal, and the likes and the subscribers supported that. Nowadays, I feel like the Big Four has gone through so many changes. People aren't really sure what to make of their social media. And so I don't know how many people are really listening to them to be like the voice of the sewing community. Like, who should we be looking out for? That's what it was back then. Who is the hot new sewist? McCall's would be sharing them. Now, it doesn't really seem to be as much of that. So I think it was just kind of like a perfect storm of where they were, what we had posted. And so, and I think that, oh, I'm trying to remember, but I think the video was a, like something like a pattern haul, something similar to that. So it wasn't even like we had made one of their patterns. I mean, I was the one that was sewing Big Four. Abby and Amber mostly did, well, Abby mostly did indie. Amber was a good combination of both. But yeah, I should go back and find what that post was that started everything.
So it's basically being at the right place at the right time.
You know what they say, you can be as skilled, you can be a prodigy, but it also takes a lot of luck. And that might have been it. I mean, who knows if their social media director wasn't on Instagram that day or didn't see that post. I mean, all of it is so random, which is why you have to do it all the time, which is why doing that, like once a week now, I will take a McCall's garment or a Big Four garment that I've made, now that they're all under one, and I'll share it to their group because I just never know who's looking. Maybe they've seen me before, but maybe they haven't. And you just never, ever know. So you have to get in the habit. You can put that on a schedule for sure. And anybody that has these private groups, you know, people that love Notions and join Love Notions private group are going to love that you made a Love Notions pattern, and they're going to want to see more about it. Just, you know, go to where that audience is most likely to live. I mean, social media can be such a echo chamber. It can be such a, like, I'm screaming into the social media room, but who's listening? Who's hearing me? So you really need, and I'm going to go into analogy land here, but you really need to pretend that you are at social networking. Like, that's what it is. So pretend you're at a networking event. You don't just walk into that networking event and go, hey, I'm Lindsey and I'm here. People are going to look at you like you're nuts. So you have to go up to the individual little groups, you know, the two people that are sitting there chatting about something, and interject yourself into that conversation. You have to go up to the person who's running that meeting, and you have to say, thanks so much for hosting this meeting. You know what I mean? Like, pretend it's a real life thing and not just computer screens and swipies. You know what I mean?
Yes. Okay. What do you think is the biggest misconception about being a YouTube sewing vlogger?
I think we've touched on it a couple of times. People think all I do all day long is sit in my sewing room and just cut and sew, and it's just like having the best time ever. No, it's not like that. My sewing is now relegated for like Sundays because that's the only day that I give myself to not do business development, to not reach out to brands, to not do all this social media marketing that I am talking about. And now that I'm teaching, kind of diversifying a little bit, you know, even more of that time is taken up doing other things. So it's simply just, I don't have that much time to sew. Thankfully, I'm a really fast sewist, and have made time consuming parts of sewing a little bit faster for myself, but I'm lucky if I get like one garment a week done, which I know to some people sounds, oh, that's a lot. I'd be lucky to get one done. But remember, I don't have children. I don't have a full-time job, you know, like, so one garment a week for someone who has nothing but time to sew isn't that much.
And maybe also it isn't as easy as it looks. People will say, oh, you make it look so easy, or that looks so natural. And we're like, you have no idea.
No idea. I know. I mean, there is some sort of natural, I don't know. I think being in front of the camera is either something you've got or something that you don't. And you can get better at it. But if you're not, I mean, it's different on Zoom because I can see your face there, but when you're filming, you're looking at a little teeny tiny dot on a camera and literally trying to envision that being thousands of people. So that can either freak you out and you can say, this is too weird, or you don't bring out enough. I'm in my room by myself, laughing, talking with, being all big. People, my neighbors, I live in an apartment complex, and I'm sure my neighbors are like, what does she do in there where she's so big? So, because if you're not that joyful, then when people are watching you, they feel like, oh, she's in her room alone. That must be a little bit awkward. You just try and take away that as much as you possibly can. And so I think some people got that and some people just don't. And there's a lot of really great avenues for those people who are not great on camera. Blogging, I think, is why that got so popular, because you didn't have to present a personality in your photos necessarily. You could type it all out, and that's much easier because it's more internal and quieter, and you're not being cuckoo, all by yourself. I can't tell you how many times I've been out at like a park or something. Here I am filming my make, people are walking by, and I'm thinking to myself, I know that they think I look strange, but what they don't know is that I'm making money standing here doing all these poses in front of this camera. So joke's on them more so than me. I've had a few people stop and ask, and then they're always really surprised that I've got so many subscribers, and it's almost like all of a sudden it becomes less weird. It's still weird no matter how many subscribers you've got, but maybe it's less weird if you've got some, because at least you're not doing it for nobody. I don't know what it is, but you have to have that, or else it just falls. I don't know, but I also focus a lot on the entertainment value of a YouTube channel more so than the information and education, because I was a sort of a newer sewist in the beginning. So I had to rely on my personality a lot more. I didn't know everything. I hadn't been sewing for dozens and dozens of years. So I think that for me, having the personality got me a lot further until I could make up with some of the knowledge as well.
And also with each video, there's improvement, because I'd say everyone's first video, we were all probably deer in the headlights, but the more you do.
I look back at those first videos and they are cringe worthy. I have people who tell me that they go binge, like they start at the beginning and go all the way, and I just tell them, wow, you've been on a journey. And they always say, yes, I have. Because yeah, it's learning about lighting. It's learning about just how to present things in a way that doesn't necessarily look normal to you and your naked eye while you're doing it, but it looks great on camera. And trying to see through the camera's lens more so than you are with your own eyeballs is definitely just something that comes with filming and then looking at the tape, filming and then looking at what you recorded, figuring out, how to make your editing go faster simply by knowing, okay, when I film this, I got to do this, and then I'm going to take a pause, or I'm going to turn the camera off and turn it back on. All these little things that you learn to make things easier for you, but also make it more enjoyable for the viewer to watch, or better for the viewer to watch, whether it's, the lighting, the sound, the editing. There's just so many technical things that we haven't ever been trained on any of this. We're just learning as we go, as you said.
Yes. And with each video you do, there's improvement. Okay, last question. What advice would you give someone who is thinking about starting a sewing vlogging YouTube channel?
Just do it. Just do it. There's no way to know if you're going to be good or successful at it unless you give it a go. In the beginning, like I said, this was what I did on the side. I came home from work and sewed and then filmed on the weekends. And you'll find out pretty quickly if you like it. You'll also find out how much hard work it is, kind of like what, as we mentioned earlier, but you'll know pretty quickly if it's something that you thought it was going to be. And if it is and you want to keep doing it, then just keep doing it. The success will come. I know that's really hard to believe, especially in the beginning, but if you love it, that will come through and people will see that. You don't have to have an amazing personality. You don't have to have a ton of expertise. People are looking for just content that they can relate to. They are looking for someone that is like them, someone that they want to be friends with. Not everybody chooses me as a friend in real life. I know, but I'm big, you know, I am a lot. I am a big, big, big personality. So it's not for everyone. Like, I get that. But what you have that I don't have might be exactly what somebody else is looking for. And I promise you, there is no better feeling than someone reaching out saying that you helped them or you brought sewing into their life or whatever it is. So in addition to the like monetary success and all of that, there is a lot of success to be had in terms of just helping people. So just do it. Come to the dark side. Nobody's reading blogs anymore. They're all on YouTube, okay? So just come on over to YouTube. It'll be just fine. We'll take good care of you. There's a small group of us, but we'll take care of you.
Great advice. I totally agree. And I've also heard, don't wait until you're ready, because if you do, you'll never be ready.
No, I can't tell you, even the people, popular people on Instagram announcing, I'm starting a YouTube channel. I just got to get this done or that done. Years go by, crickets, no YouTube channel. And I'm like, what happened? But of course, you know, it's a lot. It's difficult, which is why I say praise yourself along the way, because it is an accomplishment just to stand in front of the camera and talk, just to learn how to edit and export and upload and do a thumbnail. All of that is stuff you should be very, very proud of, even if you're making $0.
Awesome advice. I know all the existing sewing bloggers will love everything you had to say, and also maybe potential sewing bloggers who are maybe thinking about starting a channel. So thank you so much, Lindsey.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Isn't she just a wealth of information and experience? Let me know what you guys think about this series. Let me know if you have any questions. Did anything surprise you? Were you expecting a certain answer? Let's keep the conversation going in the comments below. I'm so looking forward to hearing from you and hearing what you think about this series. And I'll link Lindsey's channel in the description box, so if you haven't already, head on over there and subscribe. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to watch my video. If you'd like to see future videos, please subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate it. See you next time. Bye.